this on? Hello, hello. Okay, we're good. Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's wonderful to see so many faces, so many new faces. First and foremost, congratulations and welcome. We are excited to have each of you here, and we'll be talking a little bit more about the importance of you all being here and the impact that you all will be making. And so just your attendance tonight and showing up for this. I love seeing so many of you in your suits ready to take on the world and the university. And so before we begin, we do have just a general run through of some of our meeting proceedings. And as we talk through some of these things, I'm going to kind of talk through some of the motioning and all of those different parliamentary procedures so that when you all come to meetings from here on, our bi-weekly Senate meetings, they'll all be kind of modeled similarly, and then you're ready to go with making motions and creating seconds and all of that. But I will say for our new senators, for this evening and until you're onboarded, you will not have voting power yet. And so that's why we need you to do your good standing checks if you haven't already, to do your onboarding and all of that so that we can get you in our voting processes. So if you see any of the QR codes that are specifically for voting, and when you hear other senators making motions and so forth, you can't participate in that tonight, but from here on out, as long as you complete your onboarding, you'll be able to do all of the senator things. So with that, for the voting, this will be for our senators, but then our chats and group me's and so forth, as long as you all will follow through, as we know that you will, you're welcome to join any of those. That works. Okay, we're gonna wait on the votes until Noah can get to run to the, yeah, okay. All right, so actually before we get to our typical items of business, just because voting software we have to wait for a few moments, so we are going to skip straight to our guest speaker for the evening. And so we're really excited to be able to welcome Dr. Megan Davidson, who serves as our Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students for the university. And so that's obviously an incredibly immense title and role that she carries. However, the Dean of Students are really an incredible office and resources for students, as they're kind of the first place that you go if you ever have a problem. So if you're thinking absence verification, services for students with disabilities, they also assist with food access initiatives like the market, and even work with the Student Emergency Fund, which is what our Hokie Effect t-shirts partially go into, which we'll talk more about Hokie Effect later. But without further ado, I will hand the floor to Dr. Davidson.
Thank you. Good evening. How are we? Good, good. Okay. This is like the time I slow down and go to sleep at night. I'm a morning person. I'm really obnoxious in the morning. I wake up and I'm like, good morning, world. And people hate me for it. And then in the evenings, I'm really much slower. But maybe you're all energy, because I'm assuming that most of you are probably like ramped up and get it ready to go for the next like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. So you all need to send me all of that energy so that I feel really good. I first want to say thank you to Emma for being an incredible student leader on this campus. I had the opportunity to hang out with her yesterday, and it was really helpful. So if I do a great job here today, it has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with Emma. So thank you to that. And then I just wanted to say to all of USS, thank you so much for having me today. I really would love the opportunity to continue to figure out what this relationship conversation looks like. And so if you all have ideas or concepts that we want to think through in the future, I very much am open to and welcome that. So feel free to let me know how that goes. I'm Megan Davidson. You're welcome to call me Dr. Davidson. You're welcome to call me Megan. Both of them are perfectly fine. Once we get to know each other, then you can call me Meg, but not until then. So Emma, you can call me Meg now if you want. I try to be a little bit silly because it makes the time go by much more fun. And I use she, her pronouns. That was the other thing I wanted to cover. Okay, so yeah, just keep on clicking through. Okay, so when I had the chance to chat with Emma, I kind of asked her, like, what would be helpful? What would you all want to know as senators and directors of USS, all the lovely cabinet members and otherwise? What would be most helpful? And so she gave me some thoughts and advice. And so what I did this morning is kind of reviewing my notes and presenting. So I have like a formal like presentation, and then at the end, there's a bunch of other slides from other presentations. So if we did want to talk more about what the Dean of Students office does, or some of the other areas, I'm happy to dive into those, some stats around how we've supported students through the Student Emergency Fund, or other things along those lines. So I'm happy to dive in there. But I was figuring kind of more of a bigger picture of what my role means, because again, it's kind of a wonky title, much like James's as well. And the type of work that I do is really varied in a lot of ways, which is part of the reason why I love my job. And I was also thinking that maybe at the end of this presentation, one of you are going to think, man, one day I want to be an assistant vice president and dean of students. So my goal here is to be a little bit inspirational in that you'll be like, that's a really cool job. I want to do that too. So I did want to take a second and talk about 4 different offices that I have the great honor of working with. And I'm going to talk about that in a different way in a little bit. But I'm going to talk about Rose Settles. So Rose Settles has been on this campus in a couple different fashions for the past, I think, 25 years. So he gets a lot of props and greatness. So he is our director of the Dean of Students office and the functions that that area does. We also like to say he's kind of like the deputy dean of students, because a lot of times he and I will work in tandem to kind of navigate different spaces or tackle projects or things along those lines. So I just wanted to acknowledge and honor the great, incredible awesomeness that is Ro, and definitely, if you all have the chance to meet him, say that I said all wonderful, great things about him. So we also have 2 brand new directors within my area. So the first one is Ashley Bray, and she is our brand new director. She started like a week before I did. She is our director of Students for Services for Students with Disabilities. So when I was on campus back in May, one of the things I asked the tour guide that helped me during my interview is, what are the opportunities? What are the areas that TAC could be working on? One of the things they said was transportation, and the other thing that they said is that this is an area that there's opportunity for improvement. So our students who have documented disabilities, sometimes their interactions with office could be better, and so we're actively working to build her out as a brand new leader within student life or student affairs, and really kind of honoring the work that you all need as students. So she's super awesome, great. If you see her on campus, you should totally be friends with her. She's wonderful. I hope a lot of you know Gabby. Gabby is our director of new student and family programs. And so she oversees our orientation, summer orientation, our weeks of welcome every year, spring weeks of welcome, fall family weekend, all of that great stuff. So her and her team are really here to welcome and onboard new students and make sure that they're in good places. And then our other new director is Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart is coming from Radford University, so not too far down the road, versus Ashley came from Washington State, so she came from a very far way. But Dave was the director of conduct at that university for the past like 10 years or so. So he's coming in brand new to tech, but really tons of conduct work, restorative justice programs, to really help our students navigate that system when they have a referral to that unit. So again, I wanted to just highlight these incredible folks because the work that we do collectively and the different offices. I want to say there's probably about like 50 different staff members that report in through these different, and if you talk about student workers, it's even more than that, because there's like a quadrillion welcome ambassadors, orientation leaders, maybe some of you are part of those programs. So really, really great. So a really robust area of supports and services, and those are the words that we use. We provide programs, supports, and services for our students. Okay, next one. So again, I just want to re-highlight the work that Ro and I are doing together. We kind of are in tandem. A lot of the work that and this is a lot of words, we're not going to read through all these words, but I think what's kind of the best way to think about the work that I do versus the work that Ro do is his is a lot about connecting with students, his office connecting one-on-one with students, especially students who are experiencing complex issues and kind of navigating those alongside of those students. And the work that I'm doing is kind of a little bit more bigger picture. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. A lot of my work is connecting with the city of Blacksburg. It's working with our police departments. It's a lot of more externally facing work. And so he and I work in tandem through all those. And I think the next slide's a similar, so it's a lot of words. Both of us sit on the threat assessment team, and again, I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. We're definitely thinking about our academic affairs colleagues, so the faculty members, our advising colleagues, and other folks like that to make sure that the experience that you have as a student is fairly seamless, or that's our goal, that you're kind of navigating spaces, you're in a classroom, you're activating your accommodations, you're popping into your student leadership role, you're going to your on-campus job, and it feels somewhat seamless. That is kind of the work that he and I are doing across the institution. Okay, so again, I was thinking about my conversation with Emma, and I kind of boiled it down to 4 things, actually. This is environment for strong leaders is one area. So 4 main areas. When I think about my job and the day-to-day meetings that I have, the interactions, the type of people that I'm connecting with, it's kind of these 4 different buckets. So next slide. So the first one is celebrating students. And I think that's what I get to do tonight. So to be here with the cream of the crop, the best of the best student leaders on our campus, to understand the work that you all do, to understand your individual experiences, but also your collective experiences, to be there for fun events like the yard show that's coming up on Friday, or this past Friday, I went to the Hillel hosted a leadership dinner, and so to be in that space with students, et cetera, et cetera. A huge part of my role is being in spaces where students are at so that I can absorb as much as I can. Again, it's really kind of honoring students, helping them find the best selves, helping those emerging leaders, all that really fun stuff. So that's one. The second thing, and this shows up in a lot of different ways, to be, in my opinion, I hope to be a good dean of students, assistant vice president, I have to be a good problem solver. And what that means is I need to have the right colleagues, the right students at those tables to think through what's going on. And it looks very differently. So recently, I've been spending a lot of time with athletics colleagues, folks in VTPD, as well as Blacksburg PD, our emergency management colleagues, all of those, to think about how we can help the student gate be a better experience. Because the very first game that I went to here at Tech, those first 2.5 hours that I was here was really scary for me, and I was safe. But there were some students who maybe didn't feel particularly safe and didn't have a great experience, and maybe had a panic attack before they even got into the football stadium. Or maybe once they got in there, they couldn't reconnect with their friends. And so my job is to problem solve, to collect as much data as possible, to work with the folks, because if you don't understand the problem, then you can't come up with a really good solution. And so that happens on like a large scale example, i.e. football. It also happens when we're thinking about the institution preparing for crises. That could be a hurricane that comes through, like it did last year here, in this whole entire region and area. We had, at my prior institution, we had our boilers, which means like the way the campus is heated, shut down, and I had to relocate all of our students to another campus in like 5 hours because in the residence halls, it was dipping down to below 0 because we didn't have heat. And I had to feed them, and I had to transport them and all that. So a lot of the work that a dean of students does at institutions is problem solving. And it's also working one-on-one with students. So sometimes we have students who are just having a really challenging experience. And so I will invite them into my office to say, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? How can I connect you to resources? How can I better understand what you're going through so that we can make this a different experience for you? And then I had one more example. What was my other example? Problem solving. It'll come back to me, I know. Yeah, I remember. I had another really good example. But anyways, so my work is really kind of based around problem solving. Okay, the next one is relational. So I can't do problem solving well if I don't know anyone. So it's really important for me to meet with colleagues, to meet with the town of Blacksburg, the administration there, to meet with students, to understand what SLs are on this campus and how their job works. It's really important for me to understand James's work and all of the VT Engage. Definitely our academic affairs colleagues, all that sort of stuff. So when I'm meeting with the dean of a school, yesterday I met with the dean of the veterinarian school, and so when I'm meeting with him, I'm listening and I'm understanding and I'm comprehending and I'm actively asking questions to help inform my practice. I'm, again, also there to celebrate and be there, because if I don't do this well, everything else will be really, really crappy, right? Because this is so huge. You can't be kind of in your hierarchical position and making decisions without the correct information. So thank you all for being here so that I can work on this piece. The more I get the chance to connect with students, understand students' experiences, the better the other pieces of my job goes. Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then the last thing, and this is one of my favorite parts of my job, but it also sometimes the hardest part of our job. So as a leader, I see myself as someone who is designing spaces and environments so that the folks who are in my reporting lines can be awesome and successful. And this means students as well as staff, a lot of it's staff. So when you're in positions like mine, you're supervising, so you're thinking about personnel, you're thinking about equity, you're thinking about hours, you're thinking about effectiveness of their work, parity amongst different areas. There's a lot of things that you're thinking about and considering so that people can thrive, people can be excellent in their jobs. Because if Ro is excellent in his job, and Tamara is excellent at her job, and the folks that reported to Tamara, if all of those lines are excellent, then you all will be excellent, or you're more likely to be excellent. And so I'm always, and when I say it's one of my favorite parts, so one of my first entry-level jobs was working with the Student Programming Board. And I loved working with student leaders, especially young student leaders. And I think as I've progressed in my career, I think the things that I loved about that, working with a first year or second year student, is kind of what I do in careers now. So I've got a brand new staff member that's just out of grad school. How can I help them find their path and their passions and all that kind of stuff? But it doesn't happen on accident. It happens on purpose. So that stuff is really, really important to me. So that I'm in a lot of meetings. I'm in a lot of like deep thinking sort of things. I'm considering a lot of different variables and how I can present myself in a way that is helpful to the student experience, that's meaningful, that I'm representing you all as best as I can in my spaces. Okay. Okay, so how may you interact with a person like me? So I think one of the things I would ask you to think about as USS officers, student leaders, and things like that, is if you are thinking about a project that maybe there's an overlap with one of my 4 offices, or maybe there's a connection amongst offices. So for instance, I was just meeting with Gabby, the director of New Student Family Programs, and she's thinking about how can we help families provide donations to the market as well as our basic needs students. And so she's pulling together a bunch of different directors to talk through how they can do that really, really well. So you all, as senators and directors here in USS, may have projects that you would want to meet with me and or my staff members to kind of understand what we're already doing for students, how have we considered doing things differently, all that kind of stuff. So if and when that feels real for you, reach out. If it happens to not be something that's directly in my area, then I'm going to connect you to my great colleague who is. And so that's hopefully really good. Maybe you or a friend of yours is really, really struggling, or you're concerned about someone. That could be an opportunity for you to interact with me. A lot of times people will email me, and then I'm going to direct them to the person that they're going to best be suited to meet with. So sometimes it's not actually meeting with me, but sometimes it is meeting with me. And it just kind of depends on the nature of what's going on. A lot of times it's meeting with groups of students. So let's say you're really frustrated by a system or a department or something that's going on, a policy, procedure. A lot of times my role will sit down with a student so that we can talk through, hey, what are you thinking? What are you experiencing? How can we help connect you to the right spaces so that we can advocate for that change or that opportunity or whatever it is? And I want to give 2 shameless plugs. So how many of you have heard the term town and gown? Okay, a couple of you. James, you've heard of it. Great, I'm proud of you. So town and gown is a really common term that they use on college campuses. And essentially what it means is where there's intersectionality, where there's overlap between a town, i.e. Blacksburg, and a student population. So when you are at the grocery store getting all of your stuff before the football game, that is an example of a town and gown issue or concern or topic. If you are out on a Friday night partying and maybe your neighbors have young children and they're in bed, or they're old like me and just go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, and they call in and do a noise complaint, that would potentially be a town and gown. If we have a concern about snow removal in the community because a bunch of people are shoveling their driveways, but then this one house who has all college students, they're not shoveling their driveway. And I walk my dog, and I want to make sure when I'm walking my dog, I'm not slipping and falling in front of that house. So that would be a town and gown. Definitely football games, so traffic, new buildings, like when we are renovating, like apartment complexes, things like that. So a lot of like the Department of Transportation, definitely construction sort of stuff. So there's a lot of different things that are included in town and gown. And so I would assume that most of you in this space live off campus. And so if that's true, or if you're planning on living off campus, for you to attend our monthly town gown meetings, going with your roommates, your organization, whatever that looks like, hearing about how the university and the town are collaborating on things is a really, really great way. And I'd love to have further conversations with USS about how we can build a stronger connection to that. And then one of the things that Dr. Francis Keene, our Vice President for Student Affairs, and I do together is we convene the Student Life Council. So that is an application process that students can apply into to be a part of our advisory board. So I invite all of you. You can actually go to Gobbler Connect. Did I do that right? Gobbler Connect? Okay, good. I'm learning all that. One's at Gobbler, one's at Hokie. There's an organization, Neely Harris is a student who works in our office who's the president of that organization. And so you could apply to be on the Student Life Council, meet with me, have dinner with me, and a bunch of other student leaders once a month, and we talk through different topics. So this past month, it was an introduction of myself and Ro and Dave. This coming Town and Gown, as well as Student Life Council, we're talking about fraternity and sorority life on this campus and how it intersects with the town and otherwise. And then I think November, we're talking about pedestrian safety. So what is the institution, what is the town of Blacksburg doing to help promote smart pedestrian, bike, scooter safety in our spaces? I put my email up here because I'm happy for you all to email me. Again, I try to be a really responsive human because I love it when people are responsive. And then I love a good LinkedIn shout out. So if you all haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, I would love to do that. I'm trying to get better at social. I'm not a social media generation person, but I'm trying to be better at it. So yeah, okay. So I'm going to pause there. If anyone has questions, we're very follow-up questions that are completely in left field, more than fine. Again, I do have a couple other slides if folks did have questions about the off-campus basic needs, emergency fund, all that kind of stuff, but I didn't want to assume that you all were super interested in that. So I have the slides just in case we were. Okay. What questions? Or I was perfect and amazing and you have no questions whatsoever, because I did great. I know I did great, right? Because Emmy set me up. She teed me up. All right. No, really, what questions? I've got 2 kids and 2 dogs. My son's a freshman in high school. He went to homecoming. Oh my gosh. I was shocked. My dogs' name are Captain and Skipper. How did I know that I needed to name my dogs Captain and Skipper and then come here to Virginia Tech? I didn't know what a skipper was. We were doing more of like a, oh my gosh, what's the show? The like 60s show about desert island. Gilligan's Island. That's what we were going for. It was funny. You don't know Gilligan's Island? Okay. You guys, there's a skipper. There's a captain. It's really hard to pick up on. Yeah. Who wants to be a dean of students? I do. Head nods are good. Kay is awesome. Kat is awesome. Yeah. Yeah, one hand. Yeah, please. That's a really great question. So the question was kind of how did I get here? Do you want to hear the whole story? Am I going to like take up all your time? If I tell you all a funny story, this is going to end up in an article. So I have, and I don't even think I've told James this before. I have my career field because my partner is a big nerd. So my partner and I have been together since we were 16. It's kind of gross, I know, but I love it. And we ended up going to the same college, not on purpose. We both went to the University of Delaware as an undergrad. And sophomore year, he felt really lonely and didn't feel connected. And he was whining about it. You guys are learning a little bit about my personality. And I said, stop complaining about being bored and not having any friends and go do something about it. And so he went to this random office on campus called the Student Activities Office. And he met with this guy, and he decided to create a video game club, which was not a thing. Like, video games were not cool when I was growing up, like only like the weirdo nerd. Yeah. Nowadays, they're like super cool. Everyone plays Animal Crossing. So he started the video game club, and when he was meeting with this staff member, program coordinator, they said the only positions that matter are the president and the treasurer. And he looked at all of his friends and was like, hey, Megan, can you be the treasurer? And so I was the founding treasurer of I don't play video games. I was the founding treasurer of the video game club. Through that, I ended up having other leadership roles, just like probably a lot of you do. And then when I was graduating, I liked school, and so I was like, I could do more of this. And so I was looking for graduate assistantships, and nothing kind of was panning out. I was looking at like other universities and things like that. And this guy that they knew said, hey, and this was like back when AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, not texting. And so he messaged me on AOL Instant Messenger, are you still looking for a graduate assistantship? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't want to pay for grad school. And so he introduced me to this director that I had never met before. And like 3 days later, I had a graduate assistantship in the student centers, which is very, very similar to this building and the offices that report into this. And so I was Student Government Association's graduate assistant for 2 years. So I did exactly what you all are doing. And then I did late night programming and all that kind of stuff. And then a really terrible thing happened. One of my incredible student leaders was planning an event outside of the student center, and he was struck by a bicyclist. And he, 6 months later, died. It was really terrible and tragic. And through that, I got to see the university from a very different lens. And all of a sudden, I was like, maybe I want to work in the dean of students' office. So it was a very terrible, but it kind of deepened my work. You know, it helped me understand the impact of a really empathetic and strong human in a really terrible time. Yeah, and so a few years later, I applied to an assistant dean of students, but I was a really good problem solver, so they gave me a bunch of other things, including parent-family engagement and veteran services. And then I got my doctorate. And then I was at another institution with a very similar title. So before I came here, I was at a small liberal arts institution, being an associate vice president and dean of students. So a very comparable role. So I think me being relational, caring about people a lot, like I love my people to pieces. I love a good problem, like give me a puzzle any day, I'm here for it. I think all of those traits kind of brought me to the space where I was like, I want to make a difference. I want to make change happen. I want to be a part of a cool community. So yeah, so that's the long story. Great question. That's probably enough, right? You all are sick of me. Yeah, Miranda?
So at our previous meeting, a large group of students came and voiced concerns about the disillusion
Yeah,
of Ujima and Lavender House, and many expressed uncertainty about DEI as a future at Virginia Tech.
yeah.
Does this issue fall within your scope and like within the scope of your position? And if so, if we as senators direct our constituents to you,
Yeah.
what can you help them with?
Yeah. So Miranda, that's a real Miranda, right? Did I remember correctly? Good. That's a really good question. The one thing I'll quickly say is James and I briefly chatted right before this, and I think there's time at an open forum at the end. I think probably most of the questions that folks may have may be better answered by James because that actually reports into him. So I think that's really important. But I'm also the new person. So a lot of times when you have someone who's new, I wasn't a part of, it was kind of, all that sort of thing. So for me to be a person who can listen and empathize and hear, and again, back to what I was sharing, also to be someone to think about, okay, so this decision was made, what can the institution, what can student affairs do now? I think that's what James and I are really excited to be a part of. So I'm going to kind of, so to answer your question, not directly, but indirectly. And so if you all feel like you need more space at the very end, we can definitely have James kind of, and then I'm happy to kind of supplement things as well. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. Not directly, but indirectly. Great, love it. Other thoughts? Yeah. Yeah, so the question was, will the Student Emergency Fund be affected by the federal cuts? No. So the Student Emergency Fund is through fundraising dollars. So we have a very big organization here at Virginia Tech called Advancement. These are our folks who do fundraising for the institution. We have a dedicated staff within Student Affairs, and one of the many topics that they go and meet with potential gift officer or people who would possibly want to give gifts to the university, they have a couple different areas that they could have conversations with those folks about, and one of them is the Student Emergency Fund. So things like that, First Gen is also one that's kind of in that realm. So because it's a gift to the institution, there's actually federal laws that we have to use that money for the intention of what was given to it. So if you were to make a $50 donation to the Student Emergency Fund, we as an institution legally have to spend it in the Student Emergency Fund. And we can't, because that's the way the gift laws work. So no, we will continue. And last year, it was over $200,000 that was given to students. And there's, again, a slide in here specifically about the numbers, but it was $208,000 that was given. Really, really incredible work. Great question. Anything else? Awesome, awesome. All right, thank you again. See y'all.
Thank you again, Dr. Davidson. And so one of the reasons why we like to bring administrators like Dr. Davidson here and to talk about the different areas on campus that they do and the ways that they can help you all is because our intention as an organization within these meetings is to help bridge the gap between us as students and administrators. As we all know, the policies that the university creates and the different senates and all through the governance model, which you'll learn about later from our very own shared governance expert on cabinet, all of these decisions they end up impacting students. And so as you've seen from this evening, Dr. Davidson is very forthcoming with students and wanting to engage with the student experience. But it's also just as important that you all are in this space within the Senate and are also showing up and representing the Senate and your fellow undergraduates within the different shared governance structures that we'll talk about later. Because when these decisions are being made, as much as our administrators want to talk about the student experience and keep the best intentions and keeping us in mind, you all are the students. And so engaging with administrators like Dr. Davidson, like Dr. Bridgeforth, but then also showing up to these meetings, to other committee and commission meetings is going to be so important to your all's experience here, because at the end of the day, this is immense responsibility that each of you have in representing your constituents and our over 30,000 undergraduates. And so with that, we'll now kind of get into the formalities of the meeting before I have you all take your oath of office. And so we're going to go back to our adoption of the agenda. And so for our new senators, this is what we usually do in the forefront of the meeting or earlier on in the meeting. And so we'll just adopt the agenda for the day. And if we have one of our long-term senators who would like to make that motion. And so to run through just the motion process. So for a motion like this, all you would have to say is and let's say I'm doing it, I, Emma Rochero, motion to adopt the agenda for the evening. And so that's what kind of that motion would look like, and then we'd have a second. And so any brave senator. Yes. All right, do I hear a second? All right, and then for now, so for those, I apologize to our new senators, you can't vote tonight, but to our existing senators, you all will get the notification to vote now. And cabinet, you all, yes. Yes.
Right, duo is taking forever.
All right, thank you all. And so now we are going to repeat that process with the adoption of our previous minutes. So if I could have a motion for that. All right, and then do I have a second? Okay, great. And then you'll go through that same voting procedure. Wow. Just one more. One more. All right, great. Congratulations. I would say to our new senators, you've overseen a motion. And then hopefully at our next meeting, you all will be making motions and seconds and voting. So yes, so with that, we don't have any unfinished business for the evening. So we will jump to congratulating each and every one of you. I will not be able to say this enough because truly I want to thank you all for being here today, for running for your Senate position, for running a write-in campaign. We had multiple write-in campaigns. And so by the fact that you all cared enough to be here this evening, to run for your positions, to maybe go outside of your comfort zone and ask people to vote for you, that's really incredible. And so the fact that you all are here, I don't want you ever to forget your place in the policy process and that policy impacts each and every one of us as students here and that you have the opportunity to take action on these. And so the legacies that you all will create in this organization, we hope as a cabinet to support you all. And I cannot say it enough. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, if you all would, I know it's a lot of you, but if you would, you're gonna come up to the front and kind of you might have to take like two lines, but you all are gonna be taking your oath of office. So if you would, just kind of, just funnel up, yes. Yes, you have to be up there too.
Oh, shit, that's right.
No. Oh, okay. Okay, good, because I was watching that.
I don't have to swear in, right?
Yeah, you do. Okay. All right, if I can have you all, yeah, you can just create, it kind of dips up here, so just be careful. And then you're gonna be well, actually, y'all can face this way. That makes more sense, because then you can read the oath. But, all right. Let's see, got our photographer ready. We can do it all together. Yeah, okay. All right, if everyone could just raise their right hand. All right, and you'll just be repeating after me, and it's also, of course, on the screen. So, and you'll state your name, do solemnly swear that I will empower, support, and serve the Virginia Tech student body. That I will uphold and advance the values of UTPROSM in all of my actions. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as an elected representative of the Undergraduate Student Senate. Yay, congratulations. All right, thank you all, and if you wouldn't mind, you can take your seats at this time. And now then, of course, once you go through your onboarding process and everything, we will be providing you all with all of the USS merchandise, your inauguration pins, all of the fun things. So definitely make sure that you follow through on your onboarding. Okay. Yes, you'll be getting lots of emails from us, yes, so with that, I've talked a lot about kind of some vague committees and commissions and all of that. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce all of you to our Vice President for Shared Governance, and he is going to be doing a rundown on all things Shared Gov this evening.
That's true. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Arav. I'm the Vice President for Shared Governance. For our senators who've already been here in the past, I have spoken about shared governance endlessly, and I will do it one more time today. So I think we can go to the next slide. There was a typo on that slide, so I don't want to stay on it. But shared governance is basically about representing your constituents, which is the undergraduate students, and then also for some of you, your specific constituencies to the university and the administration and everyone else in the shared governance realm, sort of. So what is it and why? Most major changes to the way Virginia Tech does things go through the shared governance system. There's some exceptions, like always, but in general, most of the things that are changing in policy and the way things are done all go through the shared governance system, if not to get voted on, at least for comment and review. So these are resolutions, policy updates, working groups, things like that. Some examples that apply specifically to the undergraduate students are when the honor code changes. That goes through the shared governance system. We have the opportunity to vote on it, to comment on it. When the code of conduct changes, that actually goes through CUSA, so we have the opportunity to vote on it. Academic relief, housing, UCSO, other campus organizations, all the big things that affect student life, most of them go through the shared governance process. So at the bottom there, I have a list of the shared governance bodies. There's committees. Committees are formed usually for specific things, and they report up to commissions, with a few exceptions. Most committees report up to commissions. Each Senate has a commission. The commission is tasked with just like a general broad scope of doing things and getting policy work done. Each commission reports to a Senate. In our case, we have the Commission on Undergraduate Student Affairs, which reports to the Undergraduate Student Senate. And then the Senates all report to the University Council. I'm kind of skipping a step there, but I'll come back to it. The Senates all report to the University Council, which is basically the leadership from all the Senates, plus university leadership all in one place. And then the University Council cabinet is a smaller subgroup of the University Council, just like we have our cabinet. And they have certain things that they vote on, and they have to approve the agenda, they have to approve resolution proposals. So when you want to write a resolution to change something in university policy, it goes to the cabinet first, and they check whether it's in your scope, they check whether it makes sense, and then they approve it, and then you can go through and start the process. We can go to the next slide. All right, so I've spoken about this a lot in the past, and all of this information is available online. But today I thought I'll walk you guys through how it works, and specifically how you guys can make a change. So the first step in getting anything through the shared governance process is you. You start coming up with an idea, coming up with a problem, coming up with something you want to change, and you come and talk to me, or you come and talk to anyone else on cabinet, or anyone else in this room, or Dr. Bridgeforth or Kat, and they point you to the correct person. But that is the first step, is you guys. We can go to the next one. The second step is usually either a commission or a committee, and this depends. This depends on how big the problem is and on what you're trying to do. If it is a really large problem that's very complex and involves a lot of people, we will usually create a specific committee for it, and the committee's whole task is just to solve that problem. If it's not, if it's something relatively simple, it'll just stay at the commission level, and that's where the discussions will happen. But in general, the discussions in these two places are more casual. They're focused more on the issue, talking about what the issue is, how it started, why it's an issue, who it impacts, and then also talking about what the solution could look like. So the committee or the commission is almost like a focus group. You have people from everywhere in the university, leadership from other senates, leadership from other committees and commissions, and you can basically collaborate to come up with a recommendation that you then pass on. We go to the next one. You then pass the recommendation on to the Senate. So once CUSA, in our case, discusses a specific thing and decides that they want to make a change, they will write that in a resolution, and they will give it to us, the Undergraduate Student Senate. In the Senate, the discussions are usually slightly more formal. They're more focused on how does this impact our constituents, how does it impact the undergraduate students, how does it impact what we're doing. And then the goal here is to get input from all of your constituent subtypes. So we want inputs from everyone you're representing to see how this is going to impact them and make sure there's no adverse impact. And in the Senate, we vote to approve it. So on the right side over there, you'll see all the list of commissions and which senates they report to. You don't need to know this off the top of your head. It's going to be on the website and the slides, but it's just helpful for reference. The only exception is that if a resolution starts in CUSA, we get to vote on it because that's our commission. If a resolution starts in one of the other commissions, we only get to comment on it. We don't vote on it. It's going to go to the next phase regardless of whether we like it or not, but we can give our comments to let them know how we feel about it. Go to the next slide. All right, so once that happens, there's a 3.5 step that I'm going to skip for now and go to 4. So once it's approved by Senate and Commission, it moves on to the University Council. The University Council is the leadership of all the Senates plus the leadership of the university. And we have 4 voting seats on the University Council, unless I'm forgetting something again. But it's President, Vice President of Shared Governance, that's me. Vice President of Issues and Policy, that's Lindsay. And then Vice President and Board of Visitors Representative, that's Thomas. The 4 of us get to vote on University Council out of, I think, I'm not sure, 28 to 32 people on the University Council. So there's a lot of people, and we only have 4 votes. And this is important later. But University Council, the discussion is very formal because it's all the top leadership of the university. They're usually talking about the precedent, the high-level impact, and what this is going to change at the institution. They're not talking about the specific solution or the actual solution to that problem. They're just talking about how the solution is going to impact things. And then in this meeting, the goal is to get input and approval from high-level university stakeholders. So This is more of like, hey, College of Engineering, we're doing this thing. Are you cool with it? Not, hey, College of Engineering, how do we solve this thing? And then University Council is the final vote to approve in the shared governance system. There are no more votes after this point. Once the University Council votes to approve, it goes to the president for the president's consent. And then depending on what it is, it might go to the BOV. The BOV also votes, but that's not a shared governance thing. You have to be on the BOV to vote. And I don't think any of us are. All right, next one. So why is this important? This is important because we get representation on all of these committees, all of these commissions, on our Senate. We also get representation on the cabinet and the University Council. But that representation is not equal. There's limits to what certain representatives can do in certain places, just based on how the meetings are and who's in those meetings. And so in this chart, you can see all the way to the left, if you're in a shared governance committee, you have the highest impact because the discussion is the least formal and they're still talking about the actual solution. So they're still talking about how to fix the issue. And so you can weigh in and be like, actually, the undergraduate students would like the issue fixed this way, not this way. Then you move to the commissions. It's a little bit less, but still quite a lot. You have still a very large impact when you're in another commission's meeting because it's still a small group of people, a little bit less formal. They're talking about how to solve things, not quite talking about how to implement it or what the impact is going to look like. No, there's still stuff, sorry. Now this is the chart for resolutions that didn't start in our commission. At the Senate level, our impact is low, but it's not zero. And this is important because we can only comment on these resolutions. We can't stop them, but our comments are still taken very, very seriously. So you often see an email from Emma or sometimes myself with like, hey, this other commission just passed this resolution and we need to give a comment on it. And most of us will ignore it. I used to do it, but don't do that because this is very important. When our comment gets submitted to that commission, they will consider it. And there's a very high chance that if our comments are negative or if our comments are advocating for change, they will change something on that resolution before it gets voted on. Okay, cabinet. So the University Council cabinet, as I said, approves resolutions to ensure that they're within the scope and they're within the charge of that commission. Our president is on the University Council cabinet. So theoretically, we should have a really high impact. But the University Council cabinet has its own set of bylaws and its own set of rules about what happens and how it happens. So we can't just endlessly stall things there. It has to make it through based on the rules. If everyone's happy with it, it goes through. So we have some impact still, but not as much as the committees or commissions. And then lastly, the University Council. So as I mentioned, we're only 4 out of like 28 voting members. So yes, we can advocate for something, we can talk about it, but at the end of the day, we're 4 out of 28 votes. So even if we really, really don't like something and everyone else likes it, it will go through. This is not to say that this is ever going to happen. There's never going to be a situation where all the undergraduate students are opposed to something and the university still does it, unless they have a really, really good legal reason to do it. In most instances, this just doesn't happen because of all the previous steps. There's one exception to this, we can go to the next slide, is when stuff starts in CUSA. When stuff starts in CUSA, which is our commission, when we bring up problems to our Senate and when we try to solve them, we have really high impact at the individual level, so that's you guys. We also have very high impact at the commission level, and the reason 2A is removed is because CUSA doesn't have any committees. But we have really high impact at the commission level because we have 12 representatives on CUSA compared to just 1 or 2 in every other commission. Goes to the Senate, also really high impact because all of you vote on it, and then the rest is the same. But this is the exception if it starts at CUSA. So why am I telling you all this? Historically, we've never been able to fill all our shared governance seats. We usually have spots that are open in some committees or some commissions. We usually have places where people think that undergraduate students should be present and should represent, but we don't show up because we either don't know about it or because we haven't done a good job of explaining why it's important to be there. that is hopefully what I'm trying to do now. So on the next slide, this is what happens when we don't show up to those meetings. When we don't show up to these committees and when we don't show up to these commissions, we don't have any representation in the first two steps, and we don't have any impact in the first two steps. We cannot influence what's happening in these committees and commissions if we're not present in their meetings. Now, I know this is a big ask. A lot of you are very busy, and these committee and commission meetings are outside of your Senate meeting times, they're outside of your USS committee times, but it is vitally important that you're there and you represent the undergraduate students, and that when you go there, you've done your research and you know what you're talking about. But yeah, I don't know if I have something. Go to the next slide. Yes. So that was the gist of why shared governance exists, why it's important, and why you should be part of it. Specifically, some of the things that the various shared governance committees and commissions are discussing this year are foreign language requirements at admission. So the most recent CUSP resolution, they want to start enforcing the foreign language requirements at admission instead of doing it at the time of graduation. Again, if you're interested in this, let me know. I can forward the full resolution to you. Also CUSP, they're exploring a 2-day fall break. So if you feel very strongly in favor of getting 2 days off instead of 1 day, or you just want 1 day and you absolutely hate that second holiday, you should join CUSP and talk about it. CUSA, we're discussing UCSO and RSO policy. So these are our big campus organizations like LASSO, AASU, the Jewish Student Union. All of these organizations, we're changing and revamping the policy that affects them, and these discussions are going to happen in CUSA. CUSP again, they're discussing policies for text message-based faculty correspondence. So if you text a faculty member, does that count the same as an email? Does it count less than an email, more than an email? They're going to figure that out. The Commission on Graduate and Professional Studies and Policy is clarifying free speech right for students. So a lot of grad students are also university employees, either through their assistantships or through various roles they've taken on campus. So how does that intersect with their free speech right while also being university employees? And then lastly, CUSP once again is discussing barriers to student success. So this is a more general thing. Anything that might be a barrier to student academic success is being discussed in CUSP. If you're interested in any of these discussions, there's also more, but these are the main ones this year. Send me an email, and we can go to the next slide. I'm pretty sure there's a form. Yes, there's a form. Okay, so on the left side, there's a list of all the bodies and their work plans. So this is the governance library. All the information that I just gave you, and all the information that I couldn't give you because I would have liked more time, but our Senate meetings are short, is all on this website. You can learn everything that I know and more on this website. It also has the minutes of all the past meetings, the rosters, the work plans, everything. On this QR code is their upcoming meeting times. So when you're trying to decide which of these committees and commissions you want to join, if you want to know when they meet and how they meet, is that Zoom, in person, hybrid, scan this QR code, it's going to take you to a calendar, and you can look it up. And then my email is down at the bottom there, but I'm sure Kylie will send these slides out. Did everyone get these? We have one more slide. Oh, I'm doing pretty good on time. Okay, so this is the actual form. You fill this form out to let us know which committees and commissions you're interested in. Once you scan it, you got to put your name in, you got to put in what type of senator you are, and there's going to be a list of all the university commissions and all the university committees. And then once we get that, we'll figure out how to sort people. Please only select the ones that you can actually make it to. Don't just select random ones because they sound cool and then you can't make it to the meetings, because that's unfair to somebody else who wanted to do that. Also, some of them have multiple seats, some of them have only one seat. I haven't indicated that on the form, but if you indicate your interest, I will reach out to you. Any questions?
Are there any limitations on what
For CUSA, yes. For CUSA, we restrict, well, not restrict, but we need at least one of each type of senator. So those 4 spots are restricted, and then the other 8 are open to everyone. On all of the other committees and commissions, you can be any type of senator, but keep in mind that when you get elected to serve on these committees and commissions, so that's going to be an internal vote, you will be representing the undergraduate student senate. At that point, you're not representing just your constituent group, you're representing all undergraduate students. And then there's one more commission where you have to be a CUSA representative to serve on that commission. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's all I had.
Thank you, Aurav. And yeah, with that, just a quick show of hands. Is anyone here interested in athletics by chance? Athletics? Anyone like football, basketball fan? Okay. Is anyone really interested in like what's happening with the faculty, like understanding things, faculty affairs? Maybe you guys like some gossip? Okay, I see some hands. Undergraduates, curriculum. If anyone has an interest in like the pathways, requirements, things like that. These are all different things that would be, these are different commissions and committees that you'll have the opportunity to join. So definitely fill out that QR code, and we'll be sending email reminders so that we make sure that we collect everyone and have all of your input in that. But with that, this evening we actually have our very first appointment. And so for this process, it will require a motion from one of our senators. And so that motion will kind of just be along the lines of, I state your name, motion to confirm Lindsay Ritchie to CUSP, which is the Commission on Undergraduate Studies and Policies. So if someone is willing to make that motion. All right, and then do I hear a second? Okay, great. And then for those of our voting senators this evening, you will get the link to vote for that. Waiting your fate. Okay, great. Well, congratulations, Lindsay. Our first appointment. All right, and then with that, and so that was an appointment process. You'll see the university commissions are those that are appointed and then confirmed by the Senate. So if you see that in other meetings, that's what's going on there. We hope to do a lot of our appointments together, so that's why it's also important for you all to figure out that form. But with that, for our next item, for nominations, this can be anyone who is interested. You can fill out this form. This is a newly formed university committee that will be featuring topics on the matter of IT and AI governance. And so right now there's a lot of different bodies within the university that are trying to tackle the ongoing surge of AI and what the university is not necessarily going to do about it, but how we can create policies to structure AI use. Virginia Tech, and you'll hear more about this, is very committed to incorporating AI for students' use and professors and faculty as well for the purpose of efficiency and innovation and how we can teach our students to use it as a tool to then get ahead in the career landscape. But there are also a lot of conversations about the ethical use and ensuring that our AI use and compliance is in line with the principles of community and so forth. And so if you're interested in how that applies to IT governance specifically, then this is a great opportunity for you. So I definitely recommend filling out this form. I know it's lots of QR codes. And then with that, Arav kind of already touched on this, but the CUSP resolution on the foreign language requirement. So I had sent this out to our existing senators already for you all to read that resolution. But if you would, just go ahead, and if you've already filled out the QR code, or you can scan the QR code now. And as Arav touched on, your comments are your participation within this governance process. And so while it may seem like, oh, another form, or I may email a couple times in the semester being like, hey, here's a new resolution, your comments are legitimately impacting, for example, whether the foreign language requirement will be required at admission. That means from this point on, any student who is in the process of being admitted and considered for admission at Virginia Tech, whether or not the foreign language requirement is going to apply at that standpoint or later upon graduation, you all have a stake in whether that decision is made. And so definitely when you receive these resolutions, think about your constituents and think about other undergraduate students, and even think about yourself and your own experiences being a student, how this may have impacted you in your admissions process, let's say. So that's kind of a lens that you can think through when you receive these different resolutions and so forth. All right, now with that, we'll be moving on to reports. So for our new senators, we kind of always close out our meetings before a public forum with hearing from each of our cabinet members and our directors. And so I apologize for continuing to talk, but this should be quick. And so if you all are familiar, Hokie Effect is a program that is also associated with the Undergraduate Student Senate. And so this program not only impacts our budget by contributing to that, being that our organization hosts the shirts, and this week's football game, if you aren't already aware, is the Orange Effect game. That's us. And so Orange and Maroon Effect, and we'll also have some basketball games. But nonetheless, the cost of these shirts, cheapest in the bookstore, to help to benefit students in the sense of having a low-cost shirt that they can wear to support the spirit of the different sporting events. But at the same time, that money doesn't just contribute to our budget to help us fund different things like our advocacy trips, which you'll hear more about later, but also the Student Emergency Fund and athletics. So no matter what, these shirts are supporting students through every dollar outside of course, what it costs to make the shirt. And so with that, Homecoming Parade, Friday, October 3rd, if you are available, we are looking for senators to literally just walk, hand out candy, hand out stickers, wear an Orange Effect shirt, and just talk with different members of the community. So it'll be a really fun opportunity. And most of all, if that was not enticing, you can get 3 hours of office hours. And so for our new senators, you will need 4 hours of office hours every month. That goes for everyone. And so this is a way that you can almost knock that out at the beginning of the month and not have to worry about it. All right. So with that,
Okay, for the new senators, my name's Kylie. I'm our VP of Administration. You'll get a lot of emails from me. You'll also see me at onboarding after this, so please stay here for that. Just a couple of things going on. Our Director of Common Marketing application is open. It's going to be open until Saturday at 11:59. This is for current senators. Your office hours are due. You have to do them. If you haven't already, go on to Canvas and complete the Constitution and Bylaws quizzes. You do have to get an 100%. They're super easy. This will only count for your September office hours, so if you were planning on saving it, you can't. And then, yeah, just new senators stick around after for onboarding.
I'll make this really quick. So for anyone interested, the Director for Finance application is open. For that, you'd kind of help manage the internal USS budget. So if you're interested in that, come speak to me afterwards. It's going to be open on Gobbler Connect until October 6th. So yeah, and then also for anyone in the Appropriations Committee, you would have received an email from me about Vice Chair selection. If you're interested in that, let me know, and we can talk more about it. During our meeting tomorrow, I'll be explaining more of what that role would entail. So for anyone interested, just keep an eye out for it.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Feely. I'm one of the vice presidents, and I'm the undergraduate representative to the Board of Visitors. So Dr. Davidson talked about accessibility on campus and transportation. So right now, there is an update to the mobility framework of the master plan for Virginia Tech. I know I mentioned that when we met 2 weeks ago that I was going to a listening session for that, and there's now a form that's come out to take feedback from everyone. So if you haven't seen the form, let me know. Just raise your hand if you haven't seen the form and you'd like to provide feedback, and I'll send it to everyone. But if you've already received it from some other channel, I won't add that to your inbox. Raise your hand if you want the mobility framework update feedback form sent out. All right, I'm guessing everyone that wants to have their voice heard has already seen it. Arav talked about housing. There is a focus group that's meeting tomorrow. For everybody should have received an email from housing asking for feedback. If you completed the form, it took you all the way to the end to sign up to be part of a focus group. I'm in one of those focus groups tomorrow, and there's a couple spots open. So come see me afterwards, and I can get your contact information, and you can join that focus group. Tomorrow it is from 4 to 4:30 on Zoom. And since this is through housing and dining and that arm of the university, they're offering $20 dining dollars to anyone that participates. So if that's an incentive for you to share your opinion, fantastic. Come find me afterwards. Earlier today, the Board of Visitors convened in special session to vote on athletics, and so the resolution was amended. They threw something out on the floor to amend it from a 4-year plan to my understanding is a 1-year plan, and so that will increase the student fee by $100. So does anyone know how much you pay right now in athletic fees per semester? Are you concerned about how much you're paying in athletic fees? All right. Well, you pay $366 a semester, so that's $732 a year or so. So it'll go up by $100 to $50 a semester. But based on the fact that no one knows how much you're paying or cares, we won't belabor that. But I can stay after, or you can ask questions in open forum about that. All right. Thank you for your time.
All right. And then this is just for attendance, and we're doing existing center, or are we doing everyone? Have anybody sign in who they would like to. All right, everyone's welcome to scan the QR code.
It should just take you to Gobbler Connect, and there should be a little green banner at the top that says your attendance was recorded. And there's really nothing special about it.
Has everyone gotten it? Hopefully. All right. Next, I will be inviting one of our directors, our Director of Government Relations, to provide her report.
Hi everyone, I'm Anusha, I'm the Director of Government Relations, and I'm really excited to announce that our applications for Hokie Day are here. So Hokie Day, for the new senators who don't know, Hokie Day is our advocacy day at the Virginia State Capitol. So we go to Richmond, all expenses paid, to represent the Student Senate and to advocate for funding for higher education. It is so fun. I went last year, and I know like a bunch of other people in here went. So please scan the application. It closes October 15th at midnight. And also, in the case, so there's ACC Advocacy Days 2, which is like, a week later after Hokie Day, and that is where we go to DC, and if you'd like to be considered for that, I would definitely recommend applying to Hokie Day, because if you want to go to ACC Advocacy Days, like, going to Hokie Day is also like a part of that, like kind of a preliminary thing. So yeah, the application closes on October 15th. I will also send this in the GroupMe, but come up to me after the meeting if you have any questions about this. Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. What a great question. What days are Hokie Day? Let me get my phone. They're February 2nd and 3rd. And then ACC Advocacy Days is like a week later. So you're only missing like a day and a half of school? Yeah, first one, Hokie Day is like 2 days of school, but you will get an attendance, you will receive like an absence excuse like letter from, absence verification letter, I'm sorry. Sorry? Okay, but you'll get an absence verification letter. It's up to your professor's discretion, but I mean, last year I had no issues like with my professors letting me off for Hokie Day or ACC Advocacy Days. Yeah, again, anyway, I'm gonna send this in the GroupMe. Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, come up to me after if you have any.
Yeah. Yes, I will also just plug for Hokie Day and ACC Advocacy Day. This is a great way that you can take your representation of the undergraduate students up to Richmond to meet with our state legislators, as well as to DC to meet with our federal legislators and talk about issues impacting the students at really big levels of government outside the university.
Alrighty, so for those who don't know, my name is Kat Nelson. I serve as the Deputy Director and the Advisor for the USS. So for our newer friends, you've been receiving emails from myself or Noah regarding things around election, but I'm here to just generally provide support and guidance to y'all as an organization. For my quick report, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of numbers surrounding our fall election. So our voter participation numbers were up by about 48% with a total of 617 votes. I know not the most exciting number, but progress is still progress. We are still a pretty young student organization on campus, and it's great to see, especially some of our writing candidates, how many number of votes y'all got to get in these places. There are some competitive elections, so that you guys should really know, give yourselves a pat on the back. You guys got here. Congratulations. I'm very excited to be working with a lot of our new friends and our friends that ran last semester. For folks who are joining us, just please make sure you respond to the email that we sent out. Y'all have until Thursday at noon to confirm which position you'll be accepting. After that, we'll be updating the roster so that you all know who our new friends are, and then they will be joining committees pretty soon. So ideally, maybe by next week, you guys will have new folks in your committee meetings. Otherwise, for college senators, I wanted to let you know I've been working on a special project for y'all. You guys may or may not be aware, but during at least once a semester, you're supposed to meet with your college dean. We haven't always been able to enforce this, but I've been working to chat with the colleges individually to help get you guys more connected, understand some more communication pathways, like what clubs are affiliated with your college, when do they send out newsletters, things like that. So that way you guys can get supported information about maybe if you want a table there, meet with your dean, other things like that. You all have the information to be successful and meet those expectations. So I will send off communication pretty soon with Lindsay on it. Since Lindsay serves as your vice president for issues and policy, this position has generally helped liaison with the college administrators to help you get those appointments and maybe even attend with you. So this is a great opportunity for y'all to meet with your leadership at your college, advocate for your constituents, and see how you guys can enhance the undergraduate academic experience for your particular college. So keep an eye out for that, and we're looking really forward to having you guys do those initiatives. That's it for my report.
All right, and with that, we have about 13 minutes of public forum. And so for this time, this will occur at every ending segment of our meetings. And so with this, anyone from the general public who attends, as well as anyone within the Senate, directors, if you all have any information that you would like to bring before the Senate, you may have grievances that you'd like to bring before the Senate, or you may just want to be kind of plugging some opportunities or different organizations that you're also involved in on campus in ways that other senators can help you out, or even projects internally that you're working on and you want to kind of reach out to other senators. This is a great opportunity to do so. So with that, if you would like to speak, just raise your hand and I'll bring you the microphone.
Hi guys, my name is Emma Lawrence. I am the president of Bridge USA at Virginia Tech. I know you guys have probably heard me plug this a couple times, but we have a lot of new faces and some exciting things coming up. We also have our other board member, Tanya. She just got initiated tonight. I'm really proud of her. But our next meeting is going to be next Thursday, and it's going to be about DEI in higher education. So please, 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 if you know anyone that wants to come talk about what's going on our campus in a place where all points of view, ideologies are welcome, and it's a moderated discussion, please, please let them know. I also did not introduce Bridge again. We have so many new faces, but we're an organization that is nonpartisan, and we host moderated discussions every other Thursday. We love a plethora of different political ideologies, and our goal isn't to be like a debate club, but to sort of share a mindset of respect so we can have better leaders in the future. Yeah, thanks.
Hi guys, my name is Miranda Archibald. For those of you that are new, I'm the Vice President of Inclusive and Strategic Affairs. This is just a little reminder. I'm gonna send a link into the group chat. This is a calendar link with every UCSO event that's coming up. I continue to update it myself, but if you want to go ahead and knock out those office hours, this is a great way to do it. For the people that are in my committee and the people that choose to be in my committee in the future, all of you will be receiving an email with my availability. You guys are required to schedule a one-on-one, and then we'll work on your action projects together. So you'll be getting that message in the next 24 hours? Yeah. All right, guys. Much love.
All right, anyone else? Okay, with that, one brave senator gets to make the motion that may or may not become one of your favorites. To adjourn, yes. Notice how I didn't have to prompt that one. Thank you, Gerald. Do I hear a second? All right. Well, congratulations on you all attending your first Senate meeting. We hope to see you in not next week, but the week after that.